Good morning, everyone, and warmly welcome to this Trance Speak session. And yeah, it's been a while, and life took its course. And sometimes when I feel that my energies are not in place, I'm too tired, or the energy is not simply not there. I just don't feel like doing Trance Speak because I have made a promise to myself that everything that I am recording for YouTube to be in public, I will record it no matter what. So when I feel that the energy is not there, I'm not doing anything because I don't want to put up something that is not really feeling quality from my side. I have not simply done my best to reassure that I have done my very best as a trance medium. So that's why sometimes it's not published anything. I'm doing my trance sittings and I'm doing my regularly, but sometimes the energy is not there really for me. So yeah, I'm just continuing the way it is then. So today it is a day for Transpeak, and I have already done this introduction once, and I didn't have my microphone on, and now I have started all over again. So it's just one of those days. Today we have a question from Benny, who would like to know more about the work of Moses. Moses was one of the greatest physical mediums in the Bible, and he was one of many. And uh, Benny would like to know about the parting the Red Sea and the burning bush and all the Moses' work really, and leading the Israelites out of Egypt. So I have brought that to my communicators, and let's see what they have to say. And if you're new to this channel, I would like to say warmly welcome. And you can just ask questions. You can come with the subject matters that you wish my communicators shall talk about, and you can just reach out to me. If you have private personal questions and you would like to have a private sitting, you can just connect with me and we arrange a time for that. So let's do this. So let's see what they have to say today about the burning bush and Moses' work and his physical mediumship, really. So we have come today to talk about the ancient times of our Moses, who has been one of the many great leaders that was presented in the scripts of the Bible. And Moses was one of the forerunners of demonstrating the gifts of mediumship. Moses was one of those who was born in very difficult times, and he grew up with a knowledge within himself that he was meant for something greater and larger, and he knew that he had this calling within inside. And as the time came and he understood who he was really, and he felt this pulling and drawing from within inside of what was right to do. So he challenged the the king of Egypt, and he managed to bring the people out from the land of Egypt. People has been used as slaves. They have been mistreated, and they were not happy at all. And at that time, no one was really looking at life in terms of happiness or sadness. It was just life. And Moses understood that this was not the place to be. So he asked the king to release the people. And of course, he went in peace, and the king was answering him with diseases and difficulties. And many were killed during that process of managing to get the people out in the from Egypt. Many were killed by the act from the king, who was also a medium and who made life difficult for them with the grasshoppers and the all the tries to keep them in Egypt. But Moses, he continued to force his will, and he managed to get the people out of Egypt at the time. Moses was a great leader in that term, that he knew what was his task and what he was doing. And he had his brother, and he had a few more people around him that was supporting him in his leadership. And people were eager to leave Egypt, of course, because the time was difficult for them, and they decided to follow Moses. But as time was going, and they were just walking and walking, and they started to lose hope and faith in Moses. So God gave Moses the tools for him to create those miracles. One thing was that the desert is very dry and they needed water. So Moses gave him a staff, which was manifested to Moses. And that staff he used to open a cliff, to let water come out of the cliff. And God directed Moses how to do that. And he did as he was told, and water came through. And the people were absolutely amazed of who Moses was and that he could create those miracles. And the miracles that were created was because it was needed. And Moses was very capable of performing those mediumistic demonstrations. Moses asked God for food, and God provided them with food. And people were following Moses because of the miracles and because of his leadership. They were, at that time, they were also afraid of him because he had such a power to make water come from a cliff, or the burning bush was just God's anger, really. And it was very scary to the people. At that time, people were not developed in the way people are today. Many of the people were not, they were very slow in their mind and at the time. And Moses was one of those that came from the stars to lead and guide and to stimulate people's minds and people's expansion as humans. And Moses was one of those that came to bring that to people. As it was proven that the lower energy of people's mind and heart created wars and problematic situation among the people as they were fighting each other and so on. And so the people needed to grow and they needed to expand, but they also needed someone to show the way and to lead them. And Moses was one of those. And he was in contact with God, and he asked God to show them the way. So God gave them rules to follow in those tablets. And what was said on those rules, those tablets, was very simple, easy way of living rules. And they were much more simple than they have become the 10 commandments that was written on the tablets. They were much simpler written than what has become in the book of the Bible. And that was because of mankind at that time. They needed simplicity to follow. And it was very, very easy, strict commands. And the 10 words of commandments, they are today broader understanding, a wider understanding. And from the beginning, from the origin, they were just simple words and directions. And of course, today they have developed out of those simplicities into a more wider and more worldly sentences. Mose was a very gentle and kind human being, and he just wanted to follow his task and mission that he has within inside himself. And he was just willing to do the work, and he was frustrated in trying to get people to understand what he was talking about and to make them follow. They were spending a long time, many years in the desert, and God were actually showing them the way all the time. And with Moses, God had his hand on earth, and he protected them. And Moses followed God's words, and of course Moses was a human being, and he had his mm, human sides as well, and he did not always follow God's words. So the conflict between God and Moses grew, and Moses questioned God, and God was answering by the burning bush. That was God's anger, and he was answering also by not letting Moses follow the people all the way. So Moses had to finish his earthly time before they reached the promised land. God really was guiding the people, and Moses was his hand on earth, and God was with them all the time. He had food supply, and he had water supply for them, and they were afraid because all the miracles that happened, and they stopped complaining, they stopped to questioning so much, because the fear of God was there. God is love, and God is all that you need. At that time, it was simply a way of showing mankind how to move forward and how to make them understand what was right to do and what was not to do. It was nothing really is right or wrong, but at that time it was something that they should do. And that was the guidance. And in order for God to have Moses listening to him, God prevented um, shall we say, wrongs by the miracles, by the burning bush, by the fact that Moses could not follow them all the way through. At that time, people have started to questioning Moses, and it was difficult. It was a long time in the desert, and the next man stood up and took over after Moses, of course, and the people continued into the promised land. So one thing God was teaching people were how to eat and to trust that food was going to be delivered. They could not keep food from one day to the other because of the heat, and the food got ruined. So every morning, God provided them food for the day. And then the next morning, the food was provided again. And that was a way of showing them that they cannot keep food in the heat, that will be ruined. And yes, they learned what to eat and not to eat by that simple way, and by letting food being destroyed, they understood that they couldn't save or put aside for the next day. They had to trust in God's delivering of the food. So they built trust, and they followed Moses through the desert. They trusted that Moses was in contact with God, and that he was guiding and leading them in the right direction. That was a little bit from our Moses that walked the earth plane for so many years ago, and so many has read the story about the Israelites walking through the desert, and it is a short chapter in the Bible, and it meant so much for mankind. And today it means a lot for mankind in that area where people are living today, and the conflicts that goes on in the area because of the origin, what happened, and people were establishing in the promised land by that time, and of course that created conflicts, and because people were living at the land where they were coming to claim, and it still is a very hmm, sensitive area for many people, and the conflicts are still there. Yeah. So this was what we had to deliver today of the story of Moses. So If you have more questions and wonders, we will love to connect with you, and we will love to talk to you again very soon. Until next time, we ask you goodbye